So, the book of Ruth. We're going to read, it's 4 chapters. It's 4 chapters. You can listen to me read 4 chapters, can't you? But I'm just going to start with the first 7 words. In the days when the judges ruled. So we just had a pretty tough couple of lessons in the book of Judges, didn't we? Judges is not a pleasant read. You start with a slide, and it just continues to degrade until we have a society that is completely falling apart, and you can see that in the way that women are treated. We're in Ruth just from the beginning. So we're in Ruth 1 right now. So in the days of the judges, it literally says in the day the judges judged. And Judges was a tough book. And anyone who reads it will admit that it's not pleasant to read in biblical form. And we take that, almost like God puts his stamp of approval on it. Well, it's in the Bible, but that's not what it is. It's just the way societies go when they forget God. And we see that. We see societies that forget God, and we're kind of in the middle of that spiral, I feel like sometimes. The way people are treated, and things are sloughed off to the side, and money rules. And in those times, we feel like that lots of people are forgotten and pushed off to the side and not remembered and taken advantage of. It's just it's not a good thing. So, in the days the judges ruled, we have Ruth. So who in here likes Ruth? The story of Ruth. Yes, I mean it's what's called the love story, right? And it certainly is. It's a picture perfect aligning of what God's people can do in the midst of terrible times. So even though all of this awful stuff is happening, so this is during the time that the judges ruled, the book of Ruth happens. The story of Ruth comes through. So there's always light. And as you read through this, we're going to read, I want you to see how little the Lord speaks. So this isn't something that, God commands anybody to do anything. This isn't something where God says, well, you need to do this. This isn't something that God is directing other than through people's character. So Boaz is not told, you need to take care of this alien widow. Boaz does it because that's who he is. Because he is shaped by God. Because there are still good people in the land. So any comments on that? Because I do want to point that out. That God is not mentioned a ton in this story, but it's such a good story because of God's character. So I just want to point that out. We've got our character lists that are named off here in the very first little bit there. We're going to go through the names and what they mean. Elimelech, we have here. and his name means my God is king. So in the day the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live in a country for a while, the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife's name was Naomi, meaning sweet delight. Isn't that neat? My God is king and sweet delight. Go off on a journey. Now, then you hit the names of their 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion. You know what their names mean? Well, it's pretty much sicko and done for. We have sicko, the first one, Mahlon, means to be sick. And we have Chilion, which means to come to an end. Shoo! Talk about, Mom, can I talk to you about my name? I don't like this. So, it's just one of those things. We're going to see further into the story, Boaz, his name is with strength, or also to be quick. And we have a man that's not named other than, hey, such and such. And that's going to be the other redeemer that's able to take care of Naomi but decides not to. So they're off to the land of the Moabites. Why? There's a famine in the land. Shocker. God is dealing with the sin of his people, possibly with a famine here again. And he's also testing his people. We know that this is how God works. We've seen him go through. We knew that if they did right and they followed God and they did what he said and didn't follow after the idols, what would happen with them? Good things. The land would provide. Well, have they? No. What would follow? Sickness, pestilence, famine. We wonder why people are sick sometimes, and it's a byproduct of our curse. It's not always something that we can control. I'm sure poor old sicko and done for would have loved to have not had a temporary 2-line story in this Bible. They're dead in 2 sentences in the book of Ruth. But it's 2 sentences, that's 10 years. So now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there 10 years, I want you to remember that, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. After 10 years, what do we have? We have a widow with 2 more widows and no children after 10 years. What have we found God working through? Not only famine, but in women, what also does he work through? Test. You got a test this morning. Huh? No children. It almost seems as Ruth and Orpah are both barren. Because after 10 years, there's no kids. It just seems like God is working through a famine and a woman who is barren. Now, this woman is a Moabitess. This is from the descendants of Levi. And this is a bright spot from a lady who is a foreigner. So go back with me to Deuteronomy 23:3. Mike, will you read Deuteronomy 23:3?
No Ammonite or Moabite or any of their descendants may enter the assembly of the Lord, not even the 10th generation.
So read that again. Just go ahead.
No Ammonite or Moabite of any of their descendants may enter the assembly of the Lord, not even the 10th generation.
The 10th generation. Now let me tell you, let me clue you in on something. We are nowhere near the 10th generation from Deuteronomy. And yet, this Moabite woman is about to save the story. So isn't that a neat thought? That God is forgiving and loving and willing to work with anyone who will partner with Him. We are not cursed by generations of whatever. Your story can begin right now. And you can choose to do different, and you can choose to be different. You are not saddled with some sort of story from your ancestors. Will you have consequences from some of those things? Well, yeah. You'll be the son of old so-and-so one day, or the daughter of, and maybe something they did can follow your past and shape your future in certain ways, but God will not hold that against you. You can always have a fresh start. And Ruth is a beautiful story about this. When she heard now, I want you to understand there was a famine in the land. So they went to, there's all kinds of what we call, what we're going to call hyperlinks. And if you know what a hyperlink is, it's something you would click on in a story and it would take you somewhere else. So what else sounds familiar? So there's a famine in the land and they go somewhere to live. Sound like something that we've seen before? We've seen that before. Instead of going to Egypt, they go to a Moabite city. Well, here we go again. Is this the right thing to do? Is this the wrong thing to do? Because the next thing in the story, it says, when she heard in Moab. So if there was a famine, this is not that far away. If there's a famine in Judah, there's probably a famine in Moab too, because it's not too far away. But maybe they decided, well, I know that I'm not supposed to go to Egypt because Egypt's where you went. So I'm going to go to Moab. Maybe they were trying to do their part to do a better part of the story, but they still ended up going somewhere. When she heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of His people by providing food for them. So they go somewhere to look for food, and all of a sudden we hear that, well, back in, God is remedying His people, so we're going to go back. Naomi and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her two daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would have taken them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show kindness to you as you've shown to your dead and to me. May the Lord grant each of you to find rest in your home, in the home of another husband." Then she kissed and wept aloud and said, "We will go back with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have more sons? Who would become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought that there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to two sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me," which is what she changed her name to, "than for you, because the Lord's hand has gone out against me." They wept again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going to go back to her people and to her gods. Go back with her. But Ruth replied, do not urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if anything but death separates you and me. Now, Ryan pointed out that this is only the third oath that people have taken in the Bible. The first two were sort of, they were like, okay, I will do this if you do this for me. You see that in this? See any of that in this? No. Ruth says, what you do, I do. What you are, I am. Your God will be my God. And will he deal with me ever so severely if I depart from this oath? She doesn't say, if this works out, we'll do this. She's all in. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. Now, they arrived in Bethlehem. The whole town was stirred because the woman exclaimed, can this be Naomi? Don't call me sweet delight, she says. Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made me very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me sweet delight? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. Imagine that. Seems like God has a plan for these people, right? Now, Naomi had a relative on her husband's side from the clan of Elimelech, a man of standing, got some money, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, let me go to the fields and pick up leftover grain behind anyone in whom I find favor. Naomi said to her, go ahead, my daughter. So she went out and began gleaning the fields behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she found herself working in the field belonging to Boaz. It just so happened, the Bible kind of says, quote, unquote, it just so happened she ends up in this field, who was from the clan of Elimelech. So, what is this gleaning in the field? What are they doing? The leftovers. That's exactly right. What did Torah say? What did God say? You are to not go over your fields again. You are to not harvest the edges. Why? Leave it for the poor and the misfortunate, the widows, the orphans. Now, Naomi goes out and is working for her food. I do want to point that out because I think it's very important. I think it's very important that people do their part, but we also must do our part. We do not, you weren't supposed to shake the tree to get the extra olives off of it. You weren't supposed to go back and make sure you picked up every ounce. Now, when we think about a field, we think about these fields out west. You know, we think that we got miles of grain. Is that the way this was? No, this was a family plot. Few acres, maybe. I mean, this wasn't a lot. And what was this? This was their grocery order for the year. So Boaz goes on and tells the harvesters, do not, leave some of the stuff behind for her. And they're like, this is our stuff for the whole year. And he's wanting to give it to this foreigner. We don't know that, but that's got to make him, you're thinking, is this going to be enough for us for the winter? So we're not talking about acres and acres and acres of fields here. We're talking about a family's plot that and if you garden here, you know that it takes a lot to make a little. It's a lot of work to that. So she said, please let me, let me look here. Whose woman is that? The foreman replied, she is a Moabitess who came back from Moab with Naomi. She said, please let me glean among the sheaves behind the harvesters. She went into the field and worked steadily from morning till now, except for the short rest in the shelter. So Boaz said to Ruth, my daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with my servant girls. Watch the field where the men are harvesting, and follow along after the girls. I have told the men not to touch you, and whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the men have filled. At this, she bowed down with her face to the ground. She exclaimed, why have I found such favor in your eyes? You notice me, a foreigner? Boaz replied, I've been told about what you have done for your mother-in-law. Since the death of your husband, here's another hyperlink, how you left your father and mother and your homeland to came to live with a people you did not know. Is that another Abraham link? Purposefully dropped in here? Seems like it. Abraham left his people and went to live in a place that God told him. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Now, when it says that's kind of the outermost, that's what the Hebrew means there, is the outermost. You come under the outermost of our protection. So the wings is the outermost, and we're going to see this a little further on in the story, so I want to point that out. May I continue to find favor in your eyes, she said. You have given me comfort. You have spoken kindly to your servant, though I do not have a standing of one of your servant girls. At mealtime, Boaz said, come over here, have some bread and dip it in the wine vinegar. And she sat down with the harvesters. He offered her some roasted grain. She ate it, all she wanted, and some left over. She got up to glean. Boaz gave orders to the men, even if she gathers among the sheaves, don't embarrass her. Rather, pull some of the stalks for her and the bundles and leave them for her to pick up, and don't rebuke her. So Ruth gleaned in the field until evening. Then she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to an ephah. This is a lot. This is like 20 liters. She carried it back to the town, that her mother-in-law saw what she had gathered. Ruth also brought out and gave her what she had left over after she had eaten enough. Her mother-in-law asked, where did you glean today? Where did you work? Blessed be the man who took notice of you. Then Ruth told her mother-in-law about the one who had, at the place she had been working. The name of the man I worked with today is Boaz, she said. The Lord bless him, Naomi said to her daughter-in-law. He has not stopped showing kindness to the living and the dead. That man is our close relative. He is one of our, what does your version say? Guardian Redeemer. Now, let's talk about the word redeem for a second. Redeem carries a very monetary value. And we have a lot of problems in our society placing a dollar amount on a human. It kind of feels like we cheapen human life when we do that. But the Bible is very clear, because it uses several words to equate humanity with a monetary value, and this redemption is one of them. Life for a life, that's one of the things, it's worth something. If it's not, if you have no way to redeem that life, if you have no way of knowing who did it, the town of whoever was closest to it, you take an ox out and you break its neck in the valley, and you do all these things to make life worth something. And in the end, our society does it too. Do we not have insurance policies and lawsuits, wrongful death, where people come up with a value for the rest of your life if, say, something happens to you? I mean, we do that all the time. So redemption is very biblical and this life for life. A lot of times in the time of grace now, we kind of bypass this. But creation is only right when life is redeemed for it. And there's so many times that I feel like now, I've been through this redemption study, and it's so incredible that we just flippantly say, I'm sorry I killed somebody. I'm sorry that life was taken. The mother that would have an abortion, she's like, well, I'm sorry. I hate that I did that. Or do they even worry about it? And creation cries out for blood that was spilled. And we have such compassion for, like, children with cancer and things that happen to young people and things that happen that seem unfair in life. And then we turn around and we excuse death. That's not how the world works. There is an accounting for death. I don't know what that is. I'm not smart enough to come up with, but I do know that one of the possibilities for what we call an unfairness in the world could very well be an accounting of life. That we have just nodded off and say, well, I hate that. Any thoughts on that? I mean, does that make sense to you all? Do y'all have any thoughts on that? Y'all are so quiet. I like when y'all talk.
Well, death brings an end to everything.
Right.
So, yeah, it's too easy to say.
It is, huh? That's over. So, we have a redeemer, a kinsman redeemer. And this in the Hebrew is the Gaal, I think. And what it is this person who has the ability. So Elimelech has this lot of land that he has been allotted. His family line has this place, and now there is no one to work this land. What is left for Naomi to do? She can't work it. Her and Ruth just came back into the land. I'm sure it's either overgrown or has been taken and has already been sold to another group of people. Another family has taken this over. Now, they can't own it forever, but with no descendants, it's going to go away. Someone else is going to acquire this lot of land. And Ruth is going to be left in a society that takes advantage of women. We are left in the story to wonder, what of Ruth? What of Naomi? Will she sell herself into prostitution? Will someone take advantage of her? And we're going to see here a story here that in 3 where there's a chance that could happen. One day Naomi, her mother-in-law said, "My daughter, should I not try to find a home for you where you've been well provided for? Is not Boaz, with whose servant girls you have been, a kinsman of ours? Tonight he will be winnowing barley in the threshing floor. Wash and perfume yourself, and put on your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor." Now this wash and perfume yourself takes us back to the story of Perez, of the Judah and Tamar. And it's going to actually reference this. Judah and Tamar was a story of a man in a not very good situation who took advantage of what he thought was a prostitute. And we have a place here where Boaz has the ability to take advantage of a widow in a vulnerable place. Ruth says, I will do, let's see, when he lies down, note the place where he is lying, then go uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. I will do whatever you say, Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went to lie down on the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. Now, we were going to kind of skirt over this uncovering the feet, other than to say that when he looked down at her, he was looking across the sign of his covenant, which was what? His circumcision. So Ruth, all of this is a planned note to say, hey, remember your covenant and remember who you are. And we are under the robe of a man who no one knows that this woman is here. He is in good spirits and has the ability to take advantage of this woman. But what does he do? He sends her away. He says, I'm going to remember my covenant, and I'm going to do what I know should be done. So he looks across, he says to her, I will stay the night here and in the morning. And so when she says, spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are my kinsman redeemer. So remember the outstretch of the wings that we talked about? Under the garment, she has put herself under his wings of protection. You are my kinsman redeemer. You are the man who can take care of me and my people. Will you do this? He says, yes, but there is one old so-and-so. Let's skip over to chapter 4. Meanwhile, Boaz went up to the city gates. Now, the city gates, we should bring back what we remember. That's where all the town business went on. So he goes to the city gates, and he goes up to, hey, and he says, hey, friend, it says, but in the Hebrew, actually, old so-and-so. We don't even get this guy's name because he doesn't choose to do the right thing. So old such and such, he is told, hey, you want this land? He says, yeah, I like land. I like land. Yeah, I'll take it. If you redeem it, do so. If you will not redeem it, so I will know, for no one has the right to do it except you, and I am next in line. So this is the first kind of, we have a great love story always has an X in there, or somebody that you're like, oh no, this is not going to happen. And then so you come to this part and you're like, oh no, is he going to? He's like, well, you'll get this, you get Naomi and Ruth on this day as well, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property. Now, Boaz already has heard of Ruth's story. He already probably knows that she is also what? Barren. Is this another hyperlink? Back to Abraham, perhaps? A man who is not interested in pushing his own line, his own lineage, making a name for himself, but making a name for another family. At this, the kinsman redeemer said, then I cannot redeem it because it might endanger my own estate. There's the man looking for his own name. You redeem it. I cannot do it. Now, in earlier times in Israel, the redemption, transfer of property came final. One man took off sandal, gave the other. This is the method in legalizing transaction in Israel. Seems like a good shoe salesman came up with that. So the kinsman redeemer said to Boaz, "Buy it yourself," and he removed the sandal. Then Boaz announced to the elders of the people, "Today you are witnesses and brought them that I have bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Kilion, and Mahlon, and also have acquired Ruth the Moabitess, Mahlon's widow, as my wife in order to maintain the name of the dead with this property. So this name will not disappear from among his family or from the town records. Today you are witnesses." Then the elders all said, "We are witnesses. And may the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, who together build up the house of Israel. And may you have standing in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem. Though you're, through the offspring of the Lord gives you by this young woman, may your family be like that of Perez, who Tamar bore to Judah." That's the hyperlink. That's another, here's this story back to Judah. Take notice, because in all the evil that's happening right now in the book of Judges, there is a man who did the right thing. We can't find a single thing that Boaz did here. Like with Judah, it becomes questionable. Judah actually has to go and repent of what he has done. And Tamar tells him, "Hey, isn't this your cloak?" And so here we have a story in the middle of a terrible, evil time in Israel's history. We have a light. And the man's name is Boaz. And the woman's name is Ruth. And she is a foreigner. God is going to carry his story out with whoever will come. It can be his people, or it doesn't have to be. But he is going to carry his story. And it ends with a genealogy, and it ties it back again to Perez, and ends with who? David. And for a time, David was the picture-perfect king. We have a time in David's history where, in the story of David, when he was exactly who God wanted him to be, a man after God's own heart. Now that didn't stay for his entire life, but for a time David was the picture of who God wanted as leader and ruler for his people. Any questions in that? When Ryan said, "You want to do Ruth?" I'm like, yeah, I want to do Ruth. I just love this story. Anything about redemption, if you can get to that. And there's a really neat study in the Bible Project on the redemption, the Redeemer. It's about 12 studies, 12 hours out of your life, but man, it's good. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Did it? All right.